Guitarists will tell you, the better the wood, the better the guitar. And the Gibson Guitar Company had been using some imported rosewood from India to make their fretboards. Now, let me explain. The fretboard, this part right here, they've been doing that until one day last August when, of all things, the federal government raided the factory in Nashville and confiscated Gibson's supply of rosewood, claiming the wood was imported illegally. According to the feds, the wood should have been finished by workers in India and then sent over, rather than sending the wood unfinished and letting American workers make the fretboards right here. Criminal charges were threatened but never filed. The company stood its ground, hoping to get the wood back. This week, Gibson's CEO ended the ordeal by settling with the Justice Department. So you wonder, why is the government clamping down on American companies that just want to produce the best product possible and, for heaven's sakes, make it in America instead of overseas? Joining me now in this very first interview since the settlement is Gibson Guitar CEO Henry Juszkiewicz. Henry, the story, I remember when it happened a year ago. I was stunned. The federal government barged into the factory in Nashville. Tell me what happened.
Well, it was pretty surprising, and you know, it was the second time they did it. So they had done that approximately 2 years before, and while we were in the process of being investigated and discussions, they came in again on an entirely different issue, which was the Indian wood. They came in with 30 SWAT-attired people with automatic weapons.
Into your factory, like you were making drugs or something?
Into 3 factories. They
Wow.
came into 3 factories. They evacuated all our employees into the parking lot. They turned off our video surveillance, and then they seized a lot of goods, guitars, hard drives. I had 4 people in my office with guns that wouldn't allow me in. It was pretty nightmarish.
What was the big issue? They said the wood in the fretboard, it was because it wasn't finished right?
Well, in both cases of investigation, there was wood from Madagascar, and then there was wood from India. The wood from India was endorsed by the Forest Stewardship Council. So we have an environmental third-party NGO that comes in and certifies that we're doing everything right. And so it was shocking that the government would seize on something that was the whole point of this Lacey Act that we were being investigated under. So, you know, there was nothing wrong with it. And the government's case revolved around something that is a non-legal issue, which is the tariff code that was applied to the fingerboards. And in our settlement, they agreed that there was no problem with importing wood from India, nor the way that we were doing it, and they're returning the fingerboards they seized.
So basically, after all of this time, guns ablazing in your face and everything they've done to virtually scare the daylights out of your employees, a year later they say, well, nothing's really wrong, but you end up having to settle with them just to get them off your back.
Yeah, and even further, we have not been able to import from a major supplier, which is India, since they did the raid. And so we had to replace all the raw materials they seized, and then we have to substitute other materials with no notice, and so it was enormously disruptive.
And you had to pay a settlement to the Justice Department. How much was that?
The settlement was $300,000, $350,000 with another piece of it. But frankly, that's, you know, small potatoes. To date, since the first raid, we have spent $2.4 million just in legal fees addressing this issue. And we haven't been charged with any. There was no trial. Had we gone to trial, legal fees would have been $5–6 million minimum.
That's a lot of guitars you could have been selling, you know. But today, well, I say the president, Governor Romney, I personally hope he will be the president, but he named Paul Ryan to be his running mate. I think both these guys have a very different attitude toward business than maybe what you've experienced with the Obama administration. Are you optimistic that things would change if we have a change of administration?
I think it would considerably improve. You know, my feeling and a lot of the people I talk to that are in business is that, you know, the current administration just does not like business guys, especially successful business guys.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter what business you're in. And there's a general distrust of what's happening in Washington at this point.
Well, there ought to be. If somebody from the government of the United States can walk into your business, shut you down, mess with you for a year, cost you millions of dollars that you can't get back for reasons they can't even explain, and eventually walk away from their own charges, but still leave you holding the bag, if that can happen to you, it can happen to every business owner in America. And if that's not a reason to scare the daylights out of people, Henry Juszkiewicz, thank you so much.
Thank you, Joe.
Great to have you.